Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're so glad that you're back with us today. Today, we are talking about imposters. Love can be so fickle, especially when your new spouse only wants your money and you don't even know their real name. Okay, so I thought this had a little bit of a white collar vibe.
Oh, I could see that. Mm-hmm. I could see that.
Not exactly the same, but like enough of the deception.
Yeah, it looks the same. Like it's a very bright kind of set design.
The characters are very attractive and interesting and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, not Matt Bomer attractive, but nevertheless, no offense to anyone in the cast, but I just might be biased.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So if you hear a little noise, like nails clicking, we have a puppy and a dog who are hanging out with us today. So there may be yips or all kinds of fun.
Or sighing, snoring, loud yawns.
Oh, we're lucky if there's some snoring, I think.
They're very happy to be here, though. Mm-hmm. It's exciting.
Yes. Oh, yes. Sniffing all over and having a look, and we'd have given them a little more time, but we don't really have more time to.
I know. We're kind of on a short amount of time today.
That's right, because kids are back in school and they got to be picked up, and God, I'm so glad they're back in school, despite all the anxiety that brings me.
Yeah, and you know what? The rhythm has been hard to fall into. I don't know about y'all, but we're back in school after 18 months of being at home, and then also coming out of summer. So getting back into that rhythm has been a little of a trudgery.
Well, and our youngest kids they weren't teenagers yet when all this started. And now they're both teenagers, and that brings its own set of new situations.
Yes. Teenage angst coming out of a pandemic.
Oh, it's like the worst kind of angst.
Ooh, it's really rough. But every once in a while my son will say something and I'm like, have you seen Daria? Because I swear Daria said that first. About 35 years ago.
Which just makes you realize that teenagers, as different as they are in different situations, are really very much the same.
Very, very similar. Exactly.
Yeah. But Imposters.
Imposters.
It ran on Bravo from late spring 2017 into 2018. It had a total of 20 episodes, just 2 seasons, and it had a different name originally. It's the original name of the series when it was first announced was My So-Called Wife.
Oh, well, no, you can't do that.
It sounds too much like My So-Called Life, which is amazing. And just
another
one season.
teen angst, kind of.
Yes, and it holds up so well. It holds up so well.
I've got to revisit that.
Oh, I have all the DVDs if you would like to watch it.
Oh my gosh.
If you want to watch it, I can supply you the...
If I start watching that, I'm going to start wearing a leather choker again.
Oh, yeah. You're going to go and get, what was it? Copper penny hair dye.
Oh, yeah. Good times.
Yeah, it was good times. So the cast, Inmar Lavi is Ava / Alice / Maddie, because there's a lot of names for her in this episode. She was in Lucifer and Gang Related, or like her big shows that she's been in, but her break was in 2012 in an MTV show called Underemployed.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Rob Heaps is Ezra Bloom. He was on NBC's Good Girls.
He's so more familiar to me than I realized. And when I started watching it, he became more and more familiar with me, is what I mean to say. Like, upon first glance, it was like, oh, this guy's kind of new to me. But then he just looked more and more familiar. And I swear he's got a doppelganger. There's another actor out there
that looks very like him.
Yes, and it kind of moves and acts very similar, and I can't place it.
Okay.
I don't even know where to start to Google it, so I'm at a loss.
Actor who looks like Rob Heaps.
You know what? That's probably what I should. I should have Googled that. Maybe I'll do that. Well, I'll do that while we chat, and maybe we'll figure that out.
Sure. And then Parker Young plays Richard Evans. He was in a show called The United States of AI on CBS. He was in Arrow and a bunch of television shows that I've never heard of.
Oh.
So, I mean, good for him. He's had a career. I'm just not familiar with it. Stephen Bishop plays Patrick. He was in several episodes of Criminal Minds, which I thought you might recognize him from.
I did.
Hey, be nice. Then we have Brian Benben as Max. He had his own show creatively called The Brian Benben Show.
Oh, well, I mean, if you've got a name like Brian Benben.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it ran on CBS. 6 episodes in like 1998.
Okay.
And 3 of them went unaired, so I don't think it was a great show.
Too bad.
But he's gone on to do lots of stuff. He was in Private Practice, a principal in Private Practice. So
Okay.
yeah, that's fun. Then we have Megan Park, who's Gabby. And I was like, what do I know her from? I've seen her in something a lot. The Secret Life of the American Teenager. She was in like almost all the episodes of that show.
Okay. I've never seen that either.
It's not great. But it
Well,
was
good to know.
It's one of those that it's like interesting and very soap opera-ish. Shailene Woodley was in it. That's where she got her big start. And it wasn't great, but it was one of those that, you know, once I started watching it, it was easy enough to just keep watching it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it was fine. And then there's one more person that I want to mention that's not in this episode, but is a big character starting in the second episode. And it's Marianne Rendon plays Jules Langmore, another ousted spouse.
Gotcha.
And she's in the newest season of In the Dark as Leslie. I was like, she looks so familiar. Why does she look familiar? Because she's in the newest season of In the Dark.
That's
So we haven't talked about her before, but she has a connection.
That's interesting.
All right, so shall we recap?
Yes, let's recap Imposters.
All right. So season 1, episode 1, a callback to the original title of the series, My So-Called Wife, which I'm like, it's perfect for an episode, not for the whole show.
Correct.
It's just right. Yeah. So there's a man, and he's sadly sitting on his couch with somebody frantically pounding on the door. And only when the pounder announces himself as the FBI does the sad man sit up and take notice. And then we see why the sad man, Ezra, is sad after a whirlwind romance, fairy tale wedding, a gift-laden month of bliss. Ezra learns that he's been the victim of a long and very expensive $1.4 million con. His lovely wife, Ava, was never really Ava. The co-worker and head of accounting, Mr. Ellis, didn't die and was never Mr. Ellis. And Aunt Catherine didn't really ever need to be in a wheelchair. Ezra has no recourse. Ava has disappeared and if he goes looking, there will be trouble. Ezra has nothing to hide, but his father has damning secrets that could ruin his long marriage and the family business if things are revealed because Ezra gets too close. Ava's real name, Maddie, escapes after a close call with her fake brother-in-law. She meets up with Aunt Catherine, who's really Sally, and Mr. Ellis, who's really Max, to plan their next con, and they leave the planning session with "See you in the game." Maddie, Max, and Sally might be ready to move on to new identities and a new mark in Seattle, but Ezra and the quote-unquote FBI agent, who's another victim of Maddie, are not willing to give up.
That's right.
Yeah. So while the audience was pretty small, it was pretty well reviewed.
Okay.
Overall, it was good. At first glance, this looks like a rather slight confection about a pretty con woman ripping off rich male saps, but quickly becomes a lot more interesting, not to mention surprisingly dark and funny, says Brad Newsom of the Sydney Morning Herald. So it was funnier than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, I had the exact opposite reaction.
Oh, you thought it was going to be funnier?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I really did. It's not your typical dark comedy in some ways. And so it's dark because it's funny and the content is negative. right?
Right.
The content is a negative story, right? Not a positive story, right? It's about conning someone and all of this stuff. But the whole show doesn't have the feel of the dark comedy that I was expecting.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't know, but I did not laugh out loud once.
Oh.
I kind
Not
of
even when Ezra was trying to figure out how he was going to kill himself?
I mean, I had a little giggle.
I kind of laughed when I'm like, oh, he's watching a video that's a cartoon on how to tie a noose.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. And I did giggle a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. So I continued watching a little bit into the next episode. But I think I just need to give it more time. Yeah. Okay, but I'm going to tell you what ruined it for me.
Oh, okay.
The, quote, FBI agent who's actually the spouse. I can't stand him.
Oh, well, then you probably won't like the rest of the show.
Oh, no.
Because he's in all of it.
But does he mellow a little bit, like out of the stereotype? Just a tad?
I would say eventually, yes. Like, he's not such a dumb jock.
Dumb jock thing just...
I mean, that's definitely, like, the character. Mm-hmm. But it's not always like that.
Okay.
He maybe becomes a little more likable.
Okay, because he's so not likable at all right now.
No.
Like, not even in a negative way. Like, not even I like to laugh at you way.
Yeah, it's more like, I see why you got conned and maybe you deserved it a little.
Yeah, a little. And that's just not good.
Yeah, no, you don't want that.
The two, Ezra and Richard, should be like, we should be excited about their dynamic mission together. Like, that should be kind of exciting. And instead, I was like, the idiocy. All over.
Yeah.
I can't.
It's like, well, no wonder you got conned.
Yeah.
You're not very smart.
Bless your heart.
Yep. So hardcore fans were desperate for Netflix to pick up the show. Mm-hmm. They really wanted a third season. It had been off the air for about a year, and somebody started a change.org petition. It got over 50,000 signatures.
That's not half bad.
It's still open. They still want Netflix to do it, but it's not.
Well, I got news for them. The petition to have travelers come back was way bigger. They didn't budge.
Not going to happen.
So this is not going to happen.
No, and it's a little bit of a shame because, I started watching it and I just kind of kept watching it, and I finished the last episode of the series like last night, I think. Mm-hmm. And they took it in a little interesting twist, and I wouldn't have minded a season 3.
Oh, see?
I wouldn't have minded one more season, so I can see why people are kind. But that there's not another season, I'm not upset about it.
Okay, well, fair.
I mean, I would watch it if it were there.
Yeah.
Do I need to go sign the change.org petition? No.
No,
I don't. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Is It True? Psychology Break and Real Life.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
My fellow citizens, our Earth is in the middle of a crisis, plunging deeper into chaos. And though I feel your pain and your loss, we can't stand idly by and let this happen. We must rise up and... Sorry. Damn it. Well, this is awkward. Hi, my name is Josh Shell, and I am the host of the Let's Start a Cult podcast, where each episode, myself and some guests take a look at different cults from around the world, for educational purposes only, and definitely not to start our own cult. Join me every other week as we break down dangerous religious cults, political extremist groups, and every other kind of cult in between.
Should I apologize for the terrible southern accent? No? Okay.
Subscribe and listen to Let's Start a Cult anywhere you listen to podcasts.
So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, an essay. We promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity or something I never thought of.
So Ezra Bloom has a real life but fake LinkedIn page.
What?
Which was so fun. I don't even know how I happened across it, but Ezra Bloom, VP of Human Resources at Bloom and Heel, Indianapolis, Indiana, February 2012 to present.
Well, that's just fun.
Isn't it just fun? Like, I think there's only 67 connections. So it's just for
fun.
like funds, for enjoyment.
But that's kind of funny.
Yes, I thought it was a little funny. So this is real life, by the way. I didn't say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we
in
are.
the real life, even though that's not real life.
It's kind of real.
It's really LinkedIn, but there's no Bloom and Heel. Or
No.
Bloom Boot and Heel. Bloom Boot and Heel.
Boot and heel.
Bloom Boot and Heel.
Oh, that's what it is? Bloom, boot, and heel.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I thought it was boot and heel.
Boot and Heel. Bloom. It's named after the family.
Because of the family is Bloom.
Right. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's not real life.
No, it's not. LinkedIn is real?
LinkedIn is real.
That's kind of where, that's what, anyway.
Yes, makes complete sense.
Yes.
Yes, and that did surprise me, by the way.
Yeah.
I would not have expected somebody
No, me either.
to do that.
I
That's
just,
really
like,
kind of funny.
I don't even know how I found it. It just like popped up and I'm like, well, isn't that fun? So Ezra is Jewish and tells Ava, his new wife, on the 28th day of their marriage that 28 in Kabbalah is the symbol for wanderer, and he gives her a gift, as he's done every day for their entire marriage thus far, which seems like a little bit of an overkill, but I guess he feels like she's too pretty for him or too like exotic or smart for him or something.
I don't know. I mean, either he's a complete hopeless romantic and that's just who he's going to be, or there's something inside of him that's warning him that he needs to keep her.
Right. Yeah.
That he needs to keep trying.
Oh, it doesn't matter how much he's going to try. Nope. Well, anyway, I couldn't find anything about 28 being the symbol of the wanderer in Kabbalah.
Oh,
but
okay.
Evidently, in Chaldea, Hebrew, Kabbalah, numerology is a big thing.
Okay.
So it's like it can denote what the person or entity appears to be in the eyes of the world. And this is from wealthymatters.com.
Okay.
And indicate the hidden karmic influences behind the scenes and foreshadow the destiny of the individual. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun.
Oh, interesting.
I had this whole like...
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing that happens in the Chaldea Hebrew Kabbalah. Mm-hmm. It's makes sense within the context of the show quite a lot, which I thought was interesting. So according to this, the number 28 doesn't mean wanderer, but 28 is a number of puzzling and frustrating contradictions. It symbolizes a person of fine promise, even genius, with great possibilities, with the ability of achieving impressive success. The person frequently does achieve this success only to see everything taken away. It indicates loss through misplaced trust in others and powerful opposition from enemies. So I'm like,
interesting.
Okay, so it doesn't mean wanderer, which would make total sense because Ava Maddie wanders from partner to partner.
Yeah.
But also there's some deceit under there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
I mean, I could see it summarized as wanderer, only because when you think of a wanderer, you think of somebody who tends to have great potential, but just isn't settled, planted to bloom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to some people, which is why like the phrase, like, not all who wander are lost, right? Like, because it's got a negative connotation in our society in a lot of ways. Now it's got a positive because of T-shirts and hats and yay, wandering, yay. But I think in some ways, yeah, the whole idea that you have potential and that it's all going to crumble is sort of why people are lost. Like, they never seem to just be on the right trajectory.
No.
I don't know. I'm
That's fair.
grasping at straws here, but
no, I just
that's
hadn't thought of it
interesting.
that way. That's interesting.
28.
Yeah.
The
28.
anklet was cute, though.
Yeah, the anklet was cute. And, you know,
Plays a big role.
it does.
Apparently going forward.
It gets recognized. Yeah. Well, we've all seen either in person or in pop culture the tradition of breaking a glass at a Jewish wedding. Why?
Yeah, I thought I knew that at one point, and then I've forgotten what that was, but I don't even know if it was the right thing. So,
Okay.
Educate.
Well, it's a number of meanings.
Okay.
So any one of them could be appropriate. 18doors.org says progressive or traditional, religious or secular Jewish weddings almost always include breaking a glass at the end of the ceremony. And so it could be an actual wine glass. It might be a light bulb because it's easy to break. They put it in a bag. And there are lots of interpretations of it. Some see it as a reminder of the destruction of the first temple of Jerusalem. Some people say it's to remind us how the marriage is fragile and you have to take care of it, or how your life is fragile and therefore you have to care for it and live every day as if it's your last together.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mazel Tov just means good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the sound of breaking glass is sometimes said to frighten away evil spirits. Which is a little more mystic.
Yeah. Well, is it? There's certain nomadic cultures who break glass and circle their tents or camps around with it to ward off
the evil spirits and,
as a form of protection.
barefoot.
Yeah.
Barefoot criminals.
Yeah, you might as well use Legos. They'd be far more effective. I still don't, I hear what you're saying about the glass breaking. It's still kind of, I can't wrap my brain around it. You know, usually when I hear of other cultures doing something unique like that and I learn the reasons, I'm quite intrigued. I'm like, oh, I get that. Oh, how cool. But this one, I'm still kind of like, I still don't get it.
Yeah. So Ezra was going to give Ava a special gift on day 29.
Oh, it was so cute.
A puppy.
It was a cute puppy.
This is where he gets the first hint that there's something really wrong.
Right.
Like that he can't deny or explain away in some way because his credit card is not accepted and neither is the next one.
Or the company card.
Or the company card, or all the things. So, but is it a good idea to give somebody a puppy?
I don't know. I that's sticky.
No, it's really not. Okay. Money Talk News has an article about this, and they're like, don't do it for a number of reasons. I'm going to go through just a few of them. So returning the gift could endanger the animal's life.
True.
So if you have to surrender it to a facility, they might end up having to euthanize it, and you don't want that.
No.
You don't want the sweet puppy you gave as a gift to be euthanized. It's not really a gift, it's a responsibility.
True.
Yeah. It's a long-term commitment for someone else.
That's true.
So if you give the gift to your spouse and you and your spouse split up, then you got to figure out who's taking it. And chemistry is really important.
Very true. I can attest to this.
Yes, you can. As somebody who's spent the better part of 2 years trying to decide if you were going to have another puppy in your life.
And then upon deciding it was serious enough to look, it was we don't even know. Rescue, a puppy. We're just waiting for the right dog.
Right.
That was it. It wasn't even about.
Yeah, you looked at puppies, you looked at
rescues,
older dogs, all kinds of dogs with organizations, dogs from individuals. You looked at all the dogs to try and find the right one. And it's such a personal experience that they don't recommend giving it as a gift. If you want to give it quote unquote as a gift, you wrap up a little coupon or something.
Smart.
And say, here you go. Pick the dog you want.
Yeah. The gift is I'm paying.
Yeah.
For the dog.
Or I'm supporting it.
Supporting it. Yeah. Because that is the thing. If a spouse brings home, in Ezra's case, if he were to bring it home thinking that everything's okay, he likely is thinking that the responsibility is either shared or that the gift is that he's going to
Right.
kind of take care of a lot of issues with
Yeah.
the dog or whatever. But that would have to be a very solid. I did get a cat once as a gift.
Okay.
But that turned out to be the best
turned-
ever.
Oh, well, that's
Cats
good.
are easier. Let's be honest. Cats are much easier.
Well, they come to you housebroken, basically.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Unless they're
mean-
mad at you.
Well, that's true too. But she came in a tiny little gift bag. Yeah, I had no idea it was going to be a cat. They hand me this gift bag, and I look in, and this little face looks up at me, and she was so young, and she goes, meow. And I was like, oh my gosh, we were BFFs.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I didn't know that's how you got Kit Kat.
that's how I got my Kit
I
Kat.
didn't
She
know
was
that.
with me for 18 years afterwards.
Wow. Aw.
Yeah.
That's sweet. But it's sweet, and I'm glad it worked out. But don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just
Don't take the risk.
don't. I mean, maybe for a child,
Well, yeah, a parent to a child, that's a different
I think that's
situation.
a little different. Yes,
Yeah.
because you understand when you give it to a child that as the child grows up and goes and does other things, you're going to take
Oh, yeah.
care of the animal.
You recognize that it's your pet, really, too, and
Right.
you're going to. In fact, it should be that way. Even if a pet is kind of meant to be an encouragement or a comfort or a fun for one person, it is a family adoption, and
Yes.
everybody has to be kind of involved. You know,
That's right.
especially when it's a kid.
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
has to.
I agree. I think there's a lot of chemistry and it's really important to recognize that. Yeah. So Ezra isn't sure what to think when he gets home and his wife and his money are missing. He's still trying to explain it away, and he calls 911 to report her
Missing.
possibly kidnapped.
Yeah.
Because her car is still there, and then he sees something that makes him hang up on 911. Was that what he should have done? Oh, absolutely not. You
no.
never, ever hang up on 911.
No, that's a bad call. Wouldn't they have sent somebody?
Well, they would have called back.
At least.
At least they would have called back. And it can actually take longer for 911 operators to call back and make sure that you're okay than if you had just stayed on the line and said, you know what, never mind. I don't need your help after all.
Right.
I understand now where she's gone, and you don't need to concern yourself with it.
Yeah.
That's really the whole thing. It's always better to stay on line. I did make an accidental 911 phone call once. I had a
Oh.
friend, and 911 was in their phone number. So it was up at the center of their phone number. So if you missed one number when you were calling them, you would accidentally call 911.
Oh, that's funny.
And they absolutely did call back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
And I was
done
like,
it with my watch.
Yeah. Oh,
And they've called back.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of their day is taken up by people who accidentally call 911 from their watch.
I think a lot. They get butt dialed a lot.
Yeah, because they were totally cool about it. Like I was carrying something on my arm, and so it pressed the emergency button and called. And I didn't know it, right? But when I removed it all, and like somehow I just ended, well, they called back.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sorry, my watch. And she goes, oh yeah, okay, no worries. Like, oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah. You know what? They're probably just relieved.
Yeah,
A
well,
lot
I
of the
hope.
time, they're like, oh, good.
I hope.
Yeah.
I mean, but I got to think as an operator, you're a little dissociated from the emotion of emergencies and probably like, it probably doesn't hit them the same way. Like they can't be like on that like, oh no mode all
there's
the time.
there's a lot of burnout.
Yeah,
in
so
911 operators.
you gotta
because-
be-
for that exact reason, because it's a very stressful job. People
Mm-hmm.
are calling you literally at the worst moment of their day, if not their week, month, year life.
Right. Which
Yeah.
means the prank calls, the accidentals either are a relief or really annoying.
Yeah. Romance scams are unfortunately very, very real.
Yes, they are.
Yes. And the idea that they're perpetrated by organized crime is pretty legit, because basically that's what this was. There was the doctor who
Yeah.
orchestrated everything, and then there was this team of 3 people running this scam. And you kind of get the idea that they're not the only ones running scams.
Right. That they're just one team.
Right. Yes. they do a lot of online stuff, which I think you and I both know people who've fallen victim to this online stuff. And it'll be a whole team of people, and they can all be online all the time. Like somebody is always answering. Now, it's easy to sound like somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Just when you're only talking in text or email or words with friends, messages, or whatever it is. That's, how they're contacting you. And then they can be very available.
Right. They seem like...
They seem like they're always around, and they're so interested in you. And in fact, it's a little funny because I made a comment on a politician's website just a few days ago, and I got a number of messages from different people, not messages, comments from different people that had really nothing to do with what I said.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw it, and they totally trolled you.
Oh, there was nice comment. I tried to send you a friend request, but it didn't work. Please send me a friend request.
Yeah, try to make it look legitimate.
Yeah, and I was like, but there were like 3 of them. Well, there were more than that, but there were several, and at least 2 had the exact same wording from different people. So I just blocked those people.
Right.
Blocked a lot of other people too.
Probably blocked some bots is what you did.
Yes, it's exactly what it was. So I was like, ooh, they're just, and that's probably it. There's bots who are looking for it. And once they get somebody to respond, they start in with this whole team of people, and
Yep. It's awful.
heartbreaking.
I personally know somebody who was scammed like almost in the same way that Ezra was.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Right.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
we'll talk more about that in a little bit.
2 people, actually.
Really?
I mean, not exactly the same ways, but
Yeah,
both
right.
of them were. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
It's so sad. So Ava took out a second mortgage on her and Ezra's home to the tune of $850,000.
Yeah.
Could she really do that?
I don't know. I'm glad you're going to answer this question.
Okay. Do you have a guess?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Unless she and her team were able to doctor certain documents that made her available to do that. And then, in which case, then Ezra doesn't even own the home anymore. So it's a real big problem.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say no.
No, it's really not legally. And
Well, not
obviously
legally.
she did this illegally because her name wasn't Ava, and
Right.
there's all kinds of stuff.
But I don't even know how you would accomplish that even by trying to doctor the situation.
No,
Like,
I don't either, unless they have. Well, that's part of the doctor's network or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, it would have to be-
It's all very illegal, but under normal circumstances, PocketSense.com has a article about how basically there is no legal way for one spouse to take out a second mortgage on the family home, the one that they share and live in together legally without the other spouse knowing about it.
right.
So,
And that's not true for the first, like to buy a house. That's not necessarily true. One person can just buy the house.
well, okay, yes and no. One person can buy the house, and there are reasons to not include a spouse. Maybe they have bad credit or something.
Right.
We actually did this with our first house.
Yeah.
That my husband qualified and paid for it, or he didn't pay for it on his own. He signed all the documents and
Right.
stuff, but I legally had to be there. There were documents I had to sign, even though he was buying the house, because we were married. He couldn't buy a house without my consent.
Okay.
So, and it's the same way
Same
for
way.
a second mortgage. They cannot take it out, even if it's in their own name, without their spouse's consent.
Now that brings up a question. She's got a team of people who have amazing kind of makeup situation.
Yes.
What if somebody posed as Ezra?
Well, and that's certainly possible.
That could be it.
Certainly.
Maybe they went about it. And
Right.
Just Max posed as Ezra.
Right. Yes.
Ooh. Interesting.
I mean, but however they did it, not legal.
What's really interesting is that they were able to get a cash out mortgage because you can't do that in Texas.
No, not usually.
There are very specific circumstances where you can sort of get a cash out loan, but it's very small and it's very limited. In general, you can't just do a cash out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And both parties would have to be
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
Yes. Uncle Joe, he had a patent on the Bloom heel, right? So how could Arthur Bloom, Ezra's dad, have stolen it?
It's easy to do.
Oh, yeah, because you know what a patent doesn't do? It doesn't keep people from stealing stuff from you. It just gives you the right to sue a person. It gives you legal recourse to defend your patent. But if you're a small inventor, you have to have some capital, some money to be able to pay an attorney.
Yep.
To be able to defend your patent. If you don't have money to be able to do that, I mean, your patent's not worth the paper it's written on.
Yep, and it depends also on what type of patent you have. You have a design patent and a utility patent. Design is literally design. So whatever the copier does, it would have to look exactly. And it could be very small tweaks and changes that make it not applicable anymore. That design patent is very difficult to defend.
Yeah.
It has to be really blatant. And then you have the utility patent. The utility patent is a little more strict because it's about the literal idea of the function of something.
Okay.
And it might even cover the mechanism for which a function is achieved. So that's a little bit better because if somebody were to steal that, it's kind of like, okay, but that is, you've tweaked a few things here and there, but utility wise,
right,
this is their intellectual property. And so that's a little easier, but it's also a very hard patent to get. And you spend so much money getting the patent. So you know what large businesses will do? They will find out that, you know, a small business or whatever has a patent. They can ramp up production, get it on the market, sell it and make a profit and pull it off the shelves before anybody even comes after them.
Wow.
Which is why it's just so difficult.
Yeah.
By the time the small business realizes, oh my gosh, and gets it together, they've already made a profit. And if they feel like, oh, it was pretty close, they could just bow out and it was worth the venture.
Yeah.
Or if it's worth, they can defend themselves so much more easily. So they just defend themselves.
Right.
And it's done. For instance, I own a patent. And there's a product on the market, looks very, very similar. Very similar, but a few tweaks and changes and it's moot point.
Yeah. It's just shame. It's a shame.
I never could even procure a utility.
No.
Only
Really?
could get a design. I tried 3 times.
Really?
So it's very difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing to do. And with shoes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't imagine
mean,
they have a utility patent for shoes. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd have to be a design patent. And at that
would have
point,
to
you're
be.
kind of like, oh, somebody might have stolen your idea, but like,
I mean, it's a shoe.
It's a
You
shoe.
didn't invent shoes.
I feel like some of those things, multiple people just have those ideas.
Yeah.
All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too.
All right, psychology break. So Ezra went overboard with the gifts.
Yeah.
Like a whole lot. But celebrating small things can be really good for a relationship.
Also true.
Elite Daily has an article. Experts say celebrating small relationship milestones is actually great for your bond. It's a way to make your partner feel appreciated. You know, during the first year that you're dating, maybe you want to do the monthly anniversary date, and it gives you an excuse to make sure that, okay, well, that's a special day. We need to make sure that we're available to, you know, have dinner together that day or whatever. And you shouldn't feel silly celebrating small things because the small things lead to big things. We talked about this before.
That's true.
You know, you celebrate your little wins on your way to your big win because that's how the human mind works.
Right. And that's how you get to the big one.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
little
It's
wins.
all the little ones along the way.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do con artists choose their mark?
Oh, this is good. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, I thought this was really interesting. BusinessInsider.com. A psychologist explains the top factor con artists use to choose their victims. And they start out by saying everybody is susceptible to con artists.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're not?
Yes, we think we're not.
We think we're too smart for that, or too worldly, or too educated, or too suspicious. No, everybody can do it. And they're talking about a book called The Confidence Game by Maria Konnikova, and that they tend to look for people who are going through some sort of upheaval, a lot of transitions. Maybe you're divorced, maybe you're fired from a job, maybe you have a death of a loved one. It could be positive, it could be a new marriage, a job promotion, the birth of a child. All periods of upheaval make you susceptible. You're less able to do it. And basically, that's what they're looking for when they're looking for a mark. Is they're looking for somebody who is ungrounded, distracted in ways. So, and basically, because you're ungrounded, what the con artist is really doing is selling you meaning and certainty.
That's right. Every time.
Yep.
Every time.
And how do con artists win your trust? Reader's Digest had an article. I thought this one was really interesting. Con artists get you talking a lot. So the victims don't ask a lot of questions. They answer a lot of questions. So I've kind of noticed this recently in my own life, that I think there are some people who, if I needed to, what I don't need to and never would, I could probably con, because I just let them talk.
They just volunteer.
So much.
They
volunteer a lot of information, and they feel, and I've noticed this, they feel really well known.
They do.
And they think, okay, so they feel known by you, and because they have this familiarity with you, they feel like they know you too.
Yeah, they think so.
They think so, even though they may not really know much of anything about you.
Right. And what's really hard about that is that actually good relationships are built on asking questions and actively listening, which is so sad, because it's exactly what con artists are zeroing in on, is asking questions and actively listening.
Yes.
They're emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
They're just mean.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
In fact, a lot of times they're more emotionally intelligent than people who have no bad intentions.
They're emotionally intelligent. They're emotionally intelligent and narcissists in a lot of cases. So really, that's a terrible comfort.
It's super dangerous.
Terrible
nefarious.
Yeah,
yes.
Really super nefarious. They'll say your name a lot.
Oh, and
when
you know
they
what?
do talk.
You know what? I hate that.
You hate it when somebody says your name?
Yeah, I don't like it
Jackie,
at all.
you don't like it when I say your name?
I actually don't. Isn't that weird?
No.
I think most people like that, and I really hate it. And
because it feels disingenuous, right?
I don't know. I feel like I'm in trouble or something.
Oh.
I feel like, I don't know what it is. Yes, or disingenuous, or it feels kind of, I don't know what it is. I have always just had an issue with that. Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I sometimes feel bad that I don't say your name more often on the show.
Good.
That I should say it more on the show.
Good.
But
you're great.
Okay.
Keep on going.
Okay.
Don't do
I'm
it.
not going to worry about it. They mimic your posture, which also creates familiarity. When they do talk, they might share some flaws that makes them feel more human and not perfect.
Right, more approachable.
Mm-hmm. They'll let you win at first. So if it's some sort of con involving a game, they'll let you win a few hands or a few rounds before they take you. Or even like winning is just being the person that saves them. They let you, or maybe they'll send you $5 coffee gift card, and you feel loved. So when they ask you for $500 for something, you're like, oh well, this is just the kind of relationship we have. It's give and take.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. They tend to set a ticking clock. There's a countdown. Things need to happen quickly. Mm-hmm. There's some sort of reason that this has to happen right now.
Urgency.
Yes, for sure.
Which is ironic because that's something that car dealers use a lot, is a sense of urgency. So the fact that a car dealer totally got taken, and I'm like, I feel like that's a bad mark as a car salesman. Because I feel like they're never, look, he was talking to Ezra and he's still selling that car. Gave him the whole rundown of why it was great and da-da-da-da. Like, how in the world does a con artist even get past that? It's amazing.
Well, because they're used to conning everybody else, they think they can't be conned.
It's true.
It's that arrogance.
It's true.
Yep. And then they also really rely on your embarrassment. So we saw that amped up in Imposters, where they literally had some sort of embarrassing information about the marks.
Right.
But especially for smaller sorts of situations, it tends to be a lot smaller than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
shame.
just
Relying on
but
shame.
it's shame. You can't tell anybody. And you fall for it, according to Psychology Today, because you wish it was true.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that they're telling you, you wish it was true. So real life.
Okay.
So there's tons of things we could talk about and tons of things I looked up, and all of it will be on our social media.
Good.
So family business issues, patent theft as a business strategy, the terrifying reality of facial recognition, which is a thing in this episode. But we're going to talk instead about the relationship, real instances of romantic relationship scams.
Okay. All right.
So NBC News Better, which is like a part of NBC News, had an article about looking for love online, romance scammers steal your heart and steal your money. And they found that the FTC said more money was lost to romance scams than any other type of scam, as reported by the FTC. That is the most lucrative. I know, it's really awful.
Oh, that's really sad.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man.
It was really sad. So they talk about Joyce, a divorced woman, and she lost about $200,000 to a con man. And so their entire relationship that she had with this guy was through text and email. And it felt, which I think is the most common. And it felt so real to her. There was all this stuff, and he started calling her early, his wife to be, and they felt so close, and they made plans to meet up, and then, something happens, some terrible, scary, awful situation. Can you send me money via Bitcoin? I mean, I think when somebody says, I need you to send it to me via Bitcoin, that should be a flag.
Oh, so many flags. So many flags.
Yep.
This is where I'm arrogant. I just don't know how I would get pulled into something like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's hard to imagine who I would be if I was single and trying to date online or something like that. Mm-hmm. And thinking that because so many marriages actually are coming out of online dating.
Yeah.
And things of that sort. I don't know. I guess maybe it's our generation. We didn't put that much authenticity in the online portion of it, except to get to know.
Right.
But as far as actually taking the next step, I think we were still far more skeptical in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was really no online dating.
I mean, I had friends online.
Yeah. Yes, I have friends that I have known in one way or another whom I've literally never met in person, but I adore them and think that they're wonderful. And they're like legitimate people, but most of them I met like a long time ago, you know, and for whatever reason, and after, a couple decades, they would have revealed themselves.
Yeah. But I mean, even I was thinking, okay, well, I had a friend who I was talking to. Could I have been sucked into something? Could that person have not been real? Is it possible I would have made
Yeah.
real life investment in something there where that was a very emotional thing. I could be more real with a couple of those people. I'm thinking about back in high school.
Okay.
Right? Like where I
Right,
had
yeah, when you were-
friends, you know, like on your chat room
understand.
friends and et cetera.
Yes.
And there was like a real connection there. Is it possible that I could have been
Yeah, taken.
taken
Yeah,
or
but we didn't have any money back then.
no,
so
we
probably-
didn't. But I think if they had asked, I'd have been like, what?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like, that's not.
well,
So I don't know. It's just, I feel so bad.
well, we know somebody that had this exact scenario
Oh, so
to
sad.
happen. I mean, sold their house
Oh,
and gave the scammer all the money,
what?
all of their retirement, like everything, because she thought this man loved her and was going to make her fabulously wealthy.
I mean,
And they came to us and told us, I have this wonderful new relationship. And we're like, we're so happy for you. Tell us more about him. And they told us about him. And we all, this whole group that she was telling about this, we're all like, this person is not whom they say they are.
yeah, it was
But
clear to you guys.
It was clear, like so crystal clear.
right.
And this person could not believe it to the point where all of us got cut out until the scammer absconded with
All the money.
a lot of money.
See, there's something we have to remember about people who are in that situation. They are no longer acting of their own accord. Their autonomy has been compromised by the fact that someone is actually manipulating them. And they,
Right.
you know, it would be no different than just, it's emotional handcuffs. You can escape that room. You're
Yeah.
totally fine. Except that if you were in a room and handcuffed, you
Yeah.
might be like, I really can't actually. Like I need help. Like there's no way I can see a way out of this or that I can see. But these are like emotional and mental handcuffs. And so they're invisible to even the person.
Right.
You don't realize how you've been changed and how you're not acting even like yourself.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, the lady in this article, I can't explain it. You're just kind of brainwashed. And I'm like,
Nuts and bolts of it all.
Oh, it's so sad. And basically, if you met the person on a dating website, 3 of which, Tinder, Match, and OkCupid, are owned by the Match Group. Basically, you have no recourse. You're on your own. They said, well, we put online to not send money to people, and we have resources to help people, but we're not culpable for any money that you give to anybody. So, there's that. And then there's one particular scammer in Canada who continues at large.
Ooh.
Yes. But he's being tracked. So Chantelane.com has a whole article about this particular scammer.
Okay.
And his victims. So there was a woman, and she'd been married for a long time, recently gotten divorced, and she met this guy on a dating website. Jody met this guy and she met him at a Starbucks.
Okay.
And they went on a date, and it was fun. And he was an engineer at on offshore drilling rigs. And then they went on a movie date. And then he came over to her house for dinner. So, of course, it's all happening pretty rapidly. But,
Right.
she's like, he seems great. And they've spent
Yeah.
all this time together. And they're, he's talking to her. I mean, this is a real life man face to face with her. And so after a month or so, they're quote unquote fall in love, and Jody and Dre start planning their life together. Well, he's been living in Vietnam, he says, and most of his money is put in gold bars because I guess it's not safe to have money in banks in Vietnam, according to him, or something. So big red flag, he can't access his money. So he's got to go back to Vietnam to get it, but he's going to do this job here in Canada
Okay.
first, but because he can't access his money, he needs to borrow some so he can re-up his certification so that he'll be able to do this job. And so, she gives him like $500. He says he's going to pay it back. She's not too worried about it. Then he goes to take the job. Well, then he supposedly has a heart attack, which Jody's dad had a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And he'd listened and knew that she would have a soft spot for somebody who had a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And comes and spends a week with her. And, I subcontracted out to other people, but I'll still make money on this job. Don't worry. So then he leaves to go back to the job and then start sending her lots and lots and lots of information, like lots of different things to look at. And that the article says, by flooding a victim's brain with random and useless details, the scammers create a scenario where you're more likely to miss what otherwise might be read as red flags.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're giving you a lot of dumb information and getting the information that they need. Now, they might have to sift through it.
Right.
Yeah. So, of course, this seems all fine and dandy. He gets paid like $49,000. Oh, but he can't deposit it because he owes back taxes. And if he deposits it to his own account, the government's going to take it. Mm-hmm. And this is where I'm like, Jody, you want to tie yourself to a man who owes back taxes?
Right? Like, hello.
You're going to help him avoid paying taxes? What? Okay, maybe don't do that. Well, of course, she deposits this, transfers money to him so that he can, quote unquote, pay his contractors that helped him out when he had the heart attack. And of course, the check bounces and he's gone by the time she realizes this. She goes for a long weekend to a wedding in Las Vegas and has a very similar scenario to what Ezra had in Imposters. She goes to buy food for a special dinner and her debit card doesn't work and her credit card doesn't work.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's this she ended up losing about $45,000 to him. And then Rosie, that same weekend that Jody is in Las Vegas thinking that she's going to come home to this wonderful man, Rosie meets Dre.
Oh.
He's on to the next one. He hasn't even finished the con with this one, and he's on to the next one. And wouldn't you know it, he lost his wallet. And she starts out by buying drinks for him and all this stuff. Basically, the whole thing ends up giving him money. Yeah. She didn't buy the tickets for him. He wanted to go back to Singapore.
Okay.
Now he's going to Singapore. Yeah. She gives him money so that he can, quote unquote, go back to Singapore and get his gold bars.
Oh, because he's still
using the gold bars. Yeah. Whole big detailed stories, always has receipts to back it up. Seems all very plausible, even as it gets ridiculous. And she finally realizes what's going on and texts him, I know what you're up to. I figured it out. And the number's already out of service.
Oh, man.
Just like but I mean, this is all pretty recent. Yeah. This is like newer than Imposters. Maybe they watched Imposters for tips.
Maybe.
So these two women end up finding one another.
Oh.
Yeah, and decide that they're going to go after Dre to get him. And the problem is a lot of the victims are educated women in their late 40s, 50s, and 60s. And that it's almost never handled federally, either in the U.S. or in Canada, that because you're dating and you give them money, they say, well, you gave it to them willingly, even though they were misrepresenting themselves.
Right. It's very hard to prosecute.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So these two women are looking for this guy and hunting him kind of becomes their passion project, and they've kind of hit a brick wall. And then they hear from a third victim.
Oh, no.
Andrea. who got taken because he claimed that he had medical expenses and needed special treatment and blah, blah, blah. And she starts doing some Google searches because she gets a request for money from a different email address than she's used to seeing from him.
Oh.
So she starts looking up variations of his name and finds a picture of him on Facebook with the word beware written across his face.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, here's a picture of the guy.
Oh, God.
He's just like a normal looking dude. He's not like unattractive, but not like super attractive. And this whole thing, and unfortunately, they have yet to catch this guy.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. But they're trying very hard to make sure that other people don't get conned by him. They almost caught up with him. They found him at a Salvation Army, like a place where people who are down on their luck can go and stay.
Okay.
They found him at one of these places and called 911, but he escaped out the back window before the police could get there. It's just so sad. And they wrap this up by saying scammers are master manipulators who target, groom, and exploit innocent victims, but our culture has its own role to play. Invisible Woman Syndrome describes the phenomenon wherein women are ignored after they reach a certain age by potential employers, by suitors, by bartenders. They're no longer imbued with youth or fertility, and we have ceased to serve our biological purpose and are deemed less valuable. So because our culture treats women of a certain age that way, they are more susceptible to these sorts of scams.
Because the scammer makes you
feel
like
valuable and wanted and worthy in a culture that worships youth.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, what a sad story.
I know, it's so sad. But hopefully they'll catch this guy, and I'll put
hope
this
so.
jerk's picture on
Yeah,
Facebook.
let me see that guy again.
Yeah.
Where's that guy?
He's in Canada.
Let me see this guy.
He's in Canada, so we're probably not going to know him, but he goes by a bunch of different names. But I thought that story was kind of interesting because it was the serial sort of con artist doing a romance scam over and over and over.
Yep.
And the victims are coming together to try and get revenge. And
Yeah, and they're brave.
they are brave.
Because, I mean, choosing to admit it enough to then go forward, to take that identity as I was scammed by this guy and I'm after him. Most people just almost ignore it like it never even happened.
Right.
But it totally did. And
Right.
it'll wreck people.
Yep.
And I've seen it happen.
Yep.
And it's so impossible to treat unless the person is like willing to say, not even to go after like revenge, like they're straight up like Monte Cristo over there, you know? But like, even without that, just to take on that identity, admit that you were scammed. Because in the situation that I went through with a friend more than several years ago.
Yeah.
But the individual capitalized on death of a loved one, recognized an inheritance, marked it. She was a single mom with a child. So he zeroed in on, we're going to be a family. We're gonna set it all right, and he really zeroed in on trying to reconcile the trauma that had caused her to be a single parent, right? And just talking about, anyways, I could go on, but he did all of those things. He ended up moving in. It was all rapid fire. He had kids from another marriage, and she was keeping him. So he needed attorney's fees, and she had frozen, and he had child support to pay. Could you help me? I need to get my kids back. Like, just capitalizing on the idea of family. And
Because that was what she was susceptible to.
right.
Yeah.
Because with her past trauma and then the recent trauma of losing a loved one, a parent, was just very, and so we saw the red flags early, but just no, can't hear it. It got worse. A mutual friend, we got together. We started talking, like, come on, intervention Stein, like, hey, like, come on, see this. Well, the way that we finally broke through was that we found that he was running another con with another person. And he got married to that one. And in fact, not only that, the guy was living in the home, said, "Oh, my boss is getting married. It's a little short thing, and he's asked me to stand in as a groomsman today." So he gets all dressed up in his little tux.
He got dressed at home?
She took a picture, like, "Oh, how cute you are as a groomsman. Have a great time."
And she sent him off to get married to somebody else.
Yep. Which, thankfully, that bride didn't realize she was being scammed. Not thankfully, but at that time, enough that she posted pictures publicly. And so we were able to follow some rabbit trails, doing some Facebook, like,
Wow.
sleuthing. And we're able to then show him at the wedding and all of that. And the police were like, "Oh, really? We can't do much. But running his name and likeness and aliases, he's wanted in 11 states
Yeah.
for this." So crushing, he's absconded with a,
Yeah.
buku load
Yeah.
of
Tons
cash.
of money.
And from both.
Oh. Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
That's really awful.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of heartbreaking things,
Yeah.
next time we're going to start looking at the Amazon Prime docuseries Lula Rich.
I cannot wait to watch this.
I have such conflicted emotions
Oh,
because
yeah?
I cannot wait to watch this, but I know it's going to A, tick me off.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
B, the only reason I get to watch it is because they're scammers. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into all of that. The whole MLM, the whole thing. I think we'll probably just watch the first episode or two, even though all 4 episodes are out. They came out today.
Yeah, I'm
as
gonna
we're
binge
recording.
it
I'm probably
the
gonna
whole way.
You're gonna
I am
watch the whole
so
thing?
interested. I want to see more about this.
I do too.
Especially about LuLaRoe. You know why? Because they've also gone sort of legit. Sort of. So I'm interested to see
Yeah.
if they address some of these changes, right? Because there's a store in the quarry.
Right.
You just actually go to the store now
Right.
and buy LuLaRoe. Just a brand in a store.
Don't.
But
Don't.
But it's interesting, and I'm very morbidly curious to know what's
absolutely.
going on behind
like
all of that.
I've been looking forward to this, and then I feel a little dirty that I've been looking forward to
I
it.
know, because you know why? Do you know why I think I'm gonna opine? I
Okay.
think we feel a little guilty because you and I have a strong conviction against MLMs.
Yes.
We also know a lot of people who are in them.
Yes, and it breaks my heart. Yes.
Yes. And so it's so conflicting because you know that by opposing it so harshly that you're really opposing someone who has really, frankly, put a lot of identity in that. And so therefore you're opposing that person.
Right.
And it's heartbreaking to be on this side of it.
Yeah, it really is.
Ugh.
Oh, but
I can't wait.
But we can't wait. That all said, we can't wait. So, thanks for joining us today. Tell a friend because it's way more fun when you can listen with a friend. Go watch the LuLaRoe I think Amazon Prime has watch party options, so you can just watch party it with a buddy, and then come back and join us in a couple weeks as we talk about that. And until next time, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Da, 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 da.